And I just want to preface this. There's a dude at ESPN, Paul Feinbaum, notoriously said a lot of racist stuff. Also, SEC guy, talks with Nick Saban. A lot of things I've disagreed on him with. A lot of times he's been called out for, things that he said that are kind of white supremacist adjacent, even on First Take. But when I agree with this man, there's a problem. Because one, his record, he's getting paid, I think, like $15 million a year, $15 million, $5 million a year, something like that. His record has never actually indicated that he even deserves to be paid this much money. He's really never been that successful at Oklahoma State, like ever. Even their best teams would get their doors stomped off and their face kicked in by Oklahoma or whoever. And he's had multiple issues in the past with players, how they were treated, how they left the program, this, that, and the third. But this is a whole new low for him. So he got called out by All-American running back Chubba Hubbard, running back from Canada, incredibly fast, track star, great running back, All-American, rushed for like 2,200 yards and like 21 touchdowns last year for Oklahoma State. Their best player by far. Earlier in the week, he was at a video. He was at a little barbecue or picnic, whatever, get together with some other people with a shirt that's had O&A on it, pretty much One America. Pretty much their a TV program that is alt-right and has a lot of very far-right, racist, suspected white supremacist leanings, and they've been called out on some of the propaganda and, let's say, accusations and things that they've put out in the past. No, they're notoriously known for it. So, Chubba Hubbard came out and said that he would disavow Oklahoma State and wouldn't have anything to do with the program or the coach until this was rectified and changes were made. What those changes were, we don't know. We'll find out. He went on Twitter and then said that, changes are happening. It's quiet right now, but don't think that they're not. And in a matter of days, he and Mike Gundy got in this makeshift video where he apologized on camera. Hubbard said he should have gone to him in private, which was a weird backtrack. Then goes on and says, well, even though I probably should have talked to you in private about this and wearing that shirt and how racist it was and how I'm not going to accept it, either way, this conversation was going to be had behind closed doors or in front of the world, and I don't regret what I did. So they talked about it. But also, Mike Gundy was accused by a former teammate of Shannon Sharp, running back Alfred Williams, 1999, when Oklahoma State and Colorado played each other, that he called a bunch of players on Colorado the N-word. And he said at the time, I have black friends, black teammates. I would never say such a thing. So, you know how that goes. And Gundy's just also, I think he started growing his mullet because his kid was getting bad grades in school. And he just keeps growing that nasty-ass, disgusting mullet. But that's a whole nother story I'm going to get into later. That's slander I'm going to get into later. But, yeah, Gundy apologized. And the great thing is, all of Hubbard's teammates backed him. One of the offensive linemen came out and said, as an offensive line, we support Hubbard. If he doesn't want to play at all, if he wants to sit the whole season out, because he came back for his senior year, he probably would have went first round or somewhere near the first round had he left. But all his teammates came out and said it and said, the racial climate of everything that's going on right now, police brutality, racism, white supremacy, all that, is bigger than a T-shirt. Like, things have been happening. And one teammate said, remember when he told you he was going to send you back to South Dallas? Like, teammates on Twitter were out there outing their coach, saying, like, yeah, he said suspect things in the past and really foul things in the past. Guys like Shannon Sharp says, you know what? The apology's fake. Doesn't sound genuine. And when I watched the video, it sounded like a fake, disingenuous apology. That's just me. You can go watch his apology. You can go look it up. It just seemed fake to me. But it is what it is. Hubbard, backtracks his stance, saying, changes are definitely going to be made. So when the players, it's interesting because I remember in 2015 when Missouri happened, and the whole country gave the black Missouri football players shit for saying we want the president to step down. We want all these changes to happen because of all the racial animus and things going on. And if we don't play, they were really going to boycott that week. And they're like, if we don't play, you don't have a team. And some of the white players felt the way, but some of them mostly agreed because they're like, yo, this is racist, it's wrong. And if they don't play, yeah. I think Shane Ray was on that team at the time. If we don't play, then yeah, there's no season. There is no team without us. And the fact that in 2020, you see their best running back on Oklahoma State, all he had to tweet out on his Twitter was that with him wearing this T-shirt, that's the final straw. This is unacceptable. I'm disassociating myself from Oklahoma State in every facet possible until changes are made and rectified. When the best player on your team does that, that's a true staple of power. And I'm glad that they checked Mike Gundy's ass on it because the dude's been honestly a lifetime failure for the most part at Oklahoma State. For the money he gets, it's pretty shocking how he hasn't been fired yet. So I'm just let me make sure I actually have his salary right. He makes $5 million a year. His team's been 15-11 in the past 2 years. Let's look up his overall record, just so y'all have it. It is. He's the all-time leader in games coached there. He has 735 winning percentage. He's 129-64 in 14 years, and his bowl record is 9-5. Now, that may seem great, but if you go back and actually look at the multiple 10 or 12 win seasons, there's not that many. He's been mediocre with a couple good seasons here and there. So for the fact that this is happening in Oklahoma, it's great. Now, on to, ironically, another school in the South. Some might say the biggest, Texas University. Now, Texas, they've had players, especially one of the receivers, I think Jerron Eagle, about a week and a half ago, they pretty much put on IG stating, we're tired of all the racism at Texas. We want things to change too as football players. And if things don't change, we won't go to any booster events or athletic events. We won't do any extracurricular stuff for the boosters or the program, nothing like that. They want the fight song changed because the history of it is deemed in a lot of racism. What they also want, they want building names and statues. Their spirit song is the Eye of Texas, and it dates back to the early 1900s. And actually, a bunch of players were out there protesting in Austin. So this isn't just a one-off. A lot of them are sick and tired of it. Let me go ahead and just read this. Okay. And this one is from, Brennan Eagles, wide receiver. Here at the University of Texas, we live by the saying, what starts here changes the world. The role of a student athlete at the University of Texas brings with it responsibilities beyond that of the average student. We are expected to serve as ambassadors for the university, our respective programs, the student body, and at times, the entire state of Texas. As ambassadors, it is our duty to utilize our voice and role as leaders in the community to push for change to the benefit of the entire UT community. The recent events across the country regarding racial injustice have brought to light the systemic racism that has always been prevalent in our country, as well as the racism that has historically plagued our campus. As a student-athlete body, we have had many conversations about how Texas can actively take charge. Our athletic department released a statement acknowledging these injustices and publicly supported the rights of student-athletes using their voices to make change. We as student-athletes and collectively as the University of Texas Longhorns football team are aware that we are an athletic department made up of many black athletes and believe that it's time we become active on our campus. We aim to hold the athletic department and the university to a higher standard by not only asking them to keep their promise of condemning racism on our campus, but to go beyond this by taking action to make Texas more comfortable and inclusive for the black athletes and the black community that has so fervently supported this program. On behalf of the UT student athletes, we ask to have the following issues addressed through implementation or plan of implementation at the start of the fall semester. We will continue to practice, work out, and participate in all required team activities and participation for the upcoming season, but without an official commitment from the university, we will not be participating in the recruiting of incoming players or donor-related events. We are asking our fellow student-athletes to stand with us. We officially request the following: campus action. The renaming of buildings Robert Lee Moore Hall, Painter Hall, Littlefield Hall, and Littlefield Hall is to include the patio, the patio cafe, and the fountain. James Hogg Auditorium, and that'll include the permanent removal of the James Hogg statue, the replacement of statues with more diverse statues on campus designed by artists, sculptors who are people of color, the inclusion of modules for incoming freshmen discussing the history of racism on campus, but for example, the Texas Cowboys. Y'all should Google that. And providing racial injustice awareness. An outreach program for inner cities, Austin, Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio, which is a huge crop and pool for where Texas, and honestly, college football gets some of its black athletes, some of its best athletes. Also, second point, athletics actions, more diversity in the Hall of Fame to include a permanent black athletic history exhibit, the UT Athletics Department to donate 0.5% of the annual earnings to black organizations and the Black Lives Matter movement, the renaming of an area of the stadium after Julius Whittier, the first black football player at Texas, and lastly, changes regarding the entire black community at UT, the replacement of the Eyes of Texas with a new song without racist undertones, listing the requirement of athletes to sing the song. Now, for those of y'all who was like, damn, that's a lot. It is. But
for those of us that are still awake after you just read that whole article.
No, it was an Instagram post. But I mean, it had to be read. I had to do it.
You read well, though.
No shit. Of course I read well. Fuck.
Like, you should do an audiobook. Like, you have a good narration voice.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, so this is happening at Texas. And I already read, I think last week and a couple weeks ago, what Tom Herman said. So at least he's on the right side of history. The coaches is for it. The players are demanding it. We'll check up on this story again in the future and see if, Texas actually followed up on it. Now, an irony, Texas has had 13 players test positive or presumed positive of COVID-19. It's pretty much it's a sparking epidemic across the country. All these players, I think like 5 or 6 players at Oklahoma State tested positive for COVID. Some were out there protesting. Some just being around people. A lot of guys been training. So there's a lot going on there. Also,
like you said, we'll see if they follow up. I mean, like, it's a good, like, emotional, like, stance and appeal. But the reality is,
there are specific actions.
The reality is, Texas is still one of the most in-demand schools, and they still have a booster program that's huge. And
black athletes.
Whatever happens this next season, and moving forward in terms of the money you can make off licensing of your own likeness and all that, Texas is still positioned very strongly. So
they could be their own conference.
Exactly. They still have the leverage. Like, even like let's say even all one